Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Adoptions from the Heart TV. I'm your host, Amanda Aliberti. I am really excited to welcome Karen. Hello, Karen.
Hello.
Karen is a family in our waiting program here at Adoptions from the Heart. She recently was awarded a grant through HelpUsAdopt, and I want Karen to share with you all a little bit about her story, what led her to even look for grants, because it can be very overwhelming trying to understand the process of adoption, the fees involved, what you may qualify for. So I'm hopeful that you can help our community better understand that. So thank you for being here, Karen.
Thank you for having me.
So why don't you first start with just a little bit of what your expectation was going into this process. People who are looking to adopt may not even realize the fees involved for private adoption, which is what we do here at Adoptions from the Heart. So maybe share a little bit of what you were thinking of what you would be signing up for in choosing to work with a private agency.
I realize that adoption is an expensive endeavor and the fees are going towards so many different things and so many different people who are working so hard. Many people say, wow, that's really expensive. It shouldn't be that expensive. But there's so many behind the scenes things happening and people working to make these adoptions happen. And it's a lot. It's a lot of money. I'm adopting as a single parent. I'm a teacher, so there's not a lot of income coming in as well. And looking to see different avenues of how I can help afford this, because this is something that I really want and I would like to work towards. Some people ask for GoFundMes and kind of family and friends. I wasn't comfortable with that personally. I know some of my family and friends are not in a position to help out, even though they really would have wanted to. So that's not an avenue that I wanted to pursue. I had talked to you, Amanda, and my social worker about other options, and you had suggested to apply for grants. Some agencies that you have worked with in the past, and then I can do my own research and see. I thought that was a great idea. I pursued that. I found 4 grant agencies that I could apply to. Some of them had fees, and some of them did not. HelpUsAdopt was one of the first ones I applied for. They did not have a fee. I was really excited to talk with you about them. Adoptions from the Heart had worked with them in the past and was really enthusiastic about them and their mission. I did some research into all the grant agencies that kind of came up as I did a Google search. Some were religious, some were not. I really looked into kind of where their grant money was coming from, who was supporting them, what their missions were, and thought that Adoptions from the Heart was really helpful in that as well. You weren't familiar with all the agencies, all the grant places that I was looking at, but kind of did my own research and really said, okay, this is something I can do. It's almost like applying again to your agency because they need financials and they need references and there's a lot of paperwork that goes into it. But the reward at the end, if you get the grant, is incredible. And even if you don't, it's really good kind of look at your finances and where you stand in the process. Since I applied for Adoptions from the Heart a while ago and kind of things have changed. So it was a good revamp of what my finances really look like.
Yeah. How long would you say it took from when you first applied to HelpUsAdopt to you receiving notification that you would be given some grant money?
So I applied, my profile was almost active. I was a little worried because with Adoptions from the Heart, a lot of your placements are emergency placements. And while I had the money, it would have wiped me out. So I was hoping that maybe I could get this grant before my placement and then be okay. So I applied before my profile was technically active, and I did receive, which was wonderful, an email back and it said, you haven't been selected this grant period, but please apply again. They were wonderful. I wrote back, I said, thank you so much, and can you tell me why? Some agencies will and some won't. They wrote back and they said, you're just too early in the process. Something that was really interesting, they said most of the people on that decision board were adoptive parents. So really redo your personal statement and really appeal to their heart and say, you've been where I've been. Help me out for whatever reason it is. I believe that was in October. I reapplied for December, made the changes that they asked. I found out in mid-December that I had been approved for a grant. which was wonderful. They called me and I was at school and I ran out of my classroom like, I have to go. I got somebody to come into my classroom. And it was wonderful. It was wonderful to get that personalized phone call as well and actually talk to somebody and be able to thank them in person rather than through an email.
Wow. So it sounds like it really overall took less than like 3 months. And then from the second time that you reapplied, it was less than a month that you were awarded the grant.
Yes. I am somebody who likes to get paperwork done. So it also, you can take your time, but I'm not somebody who likes to wait.
Yeah, but that's really good. That's really helpful because some folks may not realize that it can take that short of amount of time. Like sometimes these can be 6 months to a year of reviewing and assessing and deciding whether or not they have the availability to make, to provide these grants. So the turnaround seems rather fast, in my opinion. So that's great to hear. And for those who don't know, we have interviewed Help Us Adopt on AFTHtv before. So if you're interested in hearing directly from them as an organization, what they do, what the process looks like, definitely check out our episode guide and you can learn more about that agency and what they offer. Karen, what advice would you give folks who are maybe contemplating looking up grants, but feeling very overwhelmed? Because it can be a lot. There's a lot involved with the research, figuring out what you qualify for, which organization you align with in terms of value system, like you shared before. What advice would you give for folks who are on the fence of like, should I look or should I just give up and try to figure this out financially?
I think if you are in a position where you are interested in grants, then go for it. A lot of the paperwork, like I said, is the same. It's just kind of updated. So you already know where to find a lot of this paperwork. You know where bank statements are and my references. I asked them, usually you can't see your references, but I asked them if I could get their references from you all and then use the same ones for the grant. So a lot of the paperwork you already have, it's just recompiling it. I mean, if you get a grant for a couple $1,000 and that means something to you, then go for it. There's a couple grant places that I decided not to go through and apply because there was a fee to apply and then it was up to $1,000. And I said, well, that doesn't kind of make sense for my time and my efforts to pull all this together. But if that's something that makes a difference in your adoption journey, then go for it. Another thing I really liked about Help Us Adopt was that they will award you the grant even if you're not matched. If your profile is active, even if you haven't made that match yet, they will still say, you qualify and you get this grant, and then we'll hold it until you're matched. Some agencies do that. Some agencies that I've also applied for will say, well, we're going to hold your application until you are matched, and then you need to provide us the child's information. So when you're looking for a grant, being just aware of that, whether you think once you have been matched and once you're with your child, are you going to be able to pull together all this updated paperwork, and seeing what their timelines are as well and making sure that they align with your timeline.
Yeah, and I will say from an agency standpoint, we have worked with Help Us Adopt before in terms of our families using them. Their ability to approve grant and then the turnaround period of submitting whatever is needed to our agency is a smooth process. It's not something that there were hiccups along the way. I think they really do stand by what they put out there, that they're trying to help families. They recognize the financial burden that adoption can cause, and they are willing to assist in any way that they can. And I think they make that process of providing that grant to the agency a smooth one. So I can definitely vouch for that because I know we've seen it work in the past with other clients. So that's really good to hear. Karen, you mentioned this earlier, and I'm hoping you can maybe touch on this for a moment. You had said that you recognize that there's a lot involved with adoption, which is why the fees are high, right? Right now, infant adoption can be anywhere between $55,000 to $60,000 for private infant adoption. Can you speak on that? Because that can be a hard topic for folks to understand. And I'm just curious from your perspective, what you say to people when they say to you, wow, that's an expensive process. Like, where's all that money going towards?
I mean, people do say that because it's so much money.
Yeah.
But when someone comes to me and says that, I think about my social worker and your office and all the paperwork and this is all pre even applying to the agency. all the things that we have to submit to you, the amount of people involved in making sure the information of Adoptions from the Heart goes out to the hospitals and the social workers who are working with birth families. I mean, as a teacher, I kind of know a lot happens behind the scenes that people have no idea about it. So it's kind of the same in adoption world where all these things happen. I submit paperwork, but how many eyes does it have to go through before it gets to the final person? And when children are involved, there's a lot of safety involved as well, making sure if you have to bring a child across the state lines and dealing with all that paperwork. And I kind of encourage them to think about all the background things that have to happen throughout the process and all the people who are making sure that I'm safe where I am in coming into this process and that my paperwork is safe, because I mean, I give you my life pretty much. And then also once I'm matched and figuring out all that, kind of reminding them and myself as well what this money is going to. It's going toward the ultimatum of me being matched with a child and having a family, and making sure every T is crossed, every I is dotted, everything is legal, because there's a lot of legalities, especially across the state lines, and with children, and making sure everyone is safe.
Well said. And just to add to that, I think recognizing the adoption triad and the support that goes into all people involved, right? So the adoptive parent, the child, the birth parent, making sure there are folks who have the experience to support what an adoption entails is really important. And that is what your fees are going towards when you choose the agency that you choose. And we're grateful for folks like Help Us Adopt, who are able to offer the assistance for people who may be in need for some of these finances. And I appreciate you, Karen, sharing your perspective as a teacher and what you've gone through and your decision to want to become a mom, and knowing that your desires should not be put down because of the finances involved, and the fact that you could find an agency like Help Us Adopt that can help. You did what you had to do. You shared your story. They approved you, and you are where you are today. So thank you for sharing all that. Any final thoughts? Anything else you would like our community to know about your experience thus far? You are in the waiting stage. I know you're super excited and eager to become a parent, but anything else that you would like folks to know about your journey overall, and or with your experience of receiving the grant that you did from Help Us Adopt?
You did also remind me that there's so much that happens after as well, not just once we're matched, but the classes and the continued support for both adopted parents and the birth parents. I think that is invaluable. There's a lot of fees that you don't think about, and they add up, but the transparency that Adoptions from the Heart has given us, and just being able to kind of lay out, this is what you're going to need, this is when you're going to need it, and then being able to go to a place like Help Us Adopt and say, this is expensive, and I know there's going to be expenses that I'm not aware of at the moment, that will come up, that I won't have any control over. I'd like to be able to provide for my child once they're here. So can you help me get them here? Can you help that happen? And the grants, if anyone is thinking about a grant, it can't hurt to apply. The worst they're going to say is no. And I've gotten no from 2 grants that I've applied for, and I've said, okay, but keep going because it's helpful. It's definitely helpful.
Well, we appreciate you, Karen. Congratulations again on your grant, and we are excited to continue to support you on your journey in becoming a parent.
Thank you so much, Amanda.
Continue to tune in to future episodes here at Adoptions from the Heart TV. Hey guys, if you are enjoying the content here at AFTHtv, please subscribe and hit the bell.